So then at that time, Mr. Brown pulls out his gun, correct?
Yes, sir.
And is it your testimony that it was in response to that act by Mr. Brown that Mr. Camp then points his gun at Mr. Brown?
Yes, sir.
And at that time, we're in the standoff position, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you didn't, at that point, say anything to Mr. Camp to discourage him from pointing a gun at Mr. Brown. Is that right?
No, sir.
And your husband at that point starts saying, I don't see any paper. Where's the paper?
That's right.
And then he asks you whether or not there is a paper, right?
He says, is there a paper? Yeah, because he didn't remember what search warrant meant. He just remembered paper.
So he doesn't remember what search warrant is.
That's right.
And he doesn't remember at the time. He's on the porch that he's already been told of a search warrant, correct?
No, he doesn't remember the word because his vocabulary doesn't pick up on all our words since the stroke.
Okay.
That's why he called it a paper.
Why would he be asking for a paper if he didn't?
Because it probably clicked in his mind at the time that there was a paper when he reaches his hand out and tells him that he's a peace officer and he's going to arrest him for having a firearm.
Oh, Mr. Brown said he was going to arrest him?
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Brown say anything about shooting your husband?
There were words, but I don't know just how they came out. They were talking back and forth. Who was going to shoot who?
So Mr. Camp asks, is there a paper? Is there a paper? And then he goes back in the house after you told him there was a paper, correct?
Yes, sir. I told him there was a paper.
And when he goes back in, is that when you mentioned to Mr. Brown that your husband hates cops?
Yes, sir, because it was starting all over again after 9 years.
But you must have thought that in order to make a statement like that, and for that to mean anything, that Mr. Camp knew he was dealing with cops, correct?
After he said that he was going to arrest him.
So in other words, it was by telling Officer Brown that it was your intention to warn him that things could get worse than they already were.
Are you meaning after he went back in?
Yes, when you make the statement, he hates cops, your husband had already returned to the house, correct?
He's already in there, I suppose. He put the gun away because that's where it was at, in the dresser drawer.
But when you're telling Mr. Brown that your husband hates cops, and you're testifying now that he didn't realize they were cops until he had the confrontation where he pointed a gun, isn't that information to impart to Mr. Brown that this situation could get worse rather than better?
I don't think so.
All right, then did Mr. Camp tell you what he was going to do when he went back in the house?
No, sir.
And you didn't go back in with him, I take it?
No, I didn't. I was right there on the porch, and Lloyd came up on the porch and said he had a search warrant.
And it's your position and your testimony that when you said that, that was the first time he said it out there on the porch?
That's the first time Lloyd said it.
And it's the fact your husband hates cops, correct?
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I'll allow it. Go ahead, you may answer.
He doesn't like them, that's for sure, because of what they've done to him.
Now on direct, you identified another gun that was equally accessible to Mr. Camp. I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit 4 and ask if you can show me what you identified previously because I wasn't there.
It's this one right here.
Okay, and could you take my pen and just circle that one?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if it will write on there or not. I'd like at this time to move People's Exhibit 4 into evidence, Your Honor.
No objection. All right, it will be received.
Thank you, Your Honor. And that gun that we referred to, which was marked as People's Exhibit 4, that was on a bedside table by your husband's bed.
Yes, sir.
Now, you referred to that as his bedroom?
Yes, sir.
And so you have a separate bedroom?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I mostly sleep out in the chair because I have a bad back.
Okay. And the other gun was kept in a dresser drawer?
Yes, sir.
Is that on the other side of the bed?
No, sir, it was behind him. It was right behind where Lloyd was standing.
Okay, so it's right by the door then?
Yes, sir, right by the door.
If I can have just a moment, Your Honor.
All right.
Did you ever go to the front of the house after Mr. Camp had been taken around to the front?
No, sir, I stayed in the front room the whole time. I went right in from the back door, and then I sat in my chair while the policemen were walking all around and everything else.
You paying them?
Sharing in the, sharing in the.
Hey, tell me what.
Again for the defense, Mr. Wolf.
Every day I voted.
W-O-L-F.
Take it back.
I am the court.
I am the witness.
I am plaintiff's attorney, Mr. Quinlan. Quinlan. Okay. So we are starting off in colloquy, starting with the court, going into direct examination by me, plaintiff's attorney. Okay?
Call the case of the people of the state of California versus Karen Jean Lee. This is file number 36902. The defendant is present with her attorney, Mr. Wolf. Mr. Quinlan is also present. Looking at the time, I assume we can get this done or heard.
I would think 2 to 3 witnesses at the most.
This is the time previously scheduled for preliminary examination. Proceed.
Call Officer Hall. Please state your full name and spell your last name for the court.
Stephen D. Hall, H-A-L-L.
And your occupation?
Police officer, City of Modesto.
Were you so employed on April 19 of this year?
Yes, I was.
On that date at approximately 5:30 p.m., did you go to 114 Bodum in the city of Modesto?
Yes, I did.
Why was it that you went to that location?
To serve a search warrant.
Your Honor, I have a search warrant affidavit and return of search warrant, which I'd like marked as People's Number 1 for identification. It has been shown to opposing counsel.
All right.
Officer, showing you People's Number 1 for identification, can you examine that?
Yes.
Do you recognize that?
Yes, this is the search warrant that was served on the resident.
It is a copy
Copy, yes.
of the search warrant, affidavit and return. What happened when you arrived at that residence?
Officer Wright and myself went up to the front door and knocked.
Your Honor, before we go any further, I want to voir dire the witness on the affidavit of the search warrant, if I may.
Okay.
Officer Hall, you signed the affidavit for the search warrant, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And in your affidavit for the search warrant, you said that the informant had provided you information on one prior occasion?
Yes,
And is that it?
yes,
And was the prior occasion a covered by?
yes it was.
And how long before this situation, on April 19th, did this covered by occur?
I can't tell you exactly in days, a week, week and a half.
And did you personally participate?
Yes,
And that was the extent of it?
as far as the covered by,
Yeah.
yes.
The informant had given you no other information on persons?
Oh, yes, gave me quite a bit of information.
Well, the informant gave you the names of some persons, is that right?
Yes,
And you checked it with somebody else?
yes.
Who did you check it with?
The Stanislaus County Drug Enforcement Unit.
Who at the Drug Enforcement Unit?
I don't remember who I talked to.
When?
It was before we did this search warrant.
And it says on your affidavit, X has provided your affiant with information on persons who are dealing in controlled substances, and information has been confirmed through personal knowledge of narcotics officers at the Modesto Police Department and of the Stanislaus County Drug Enforcement Unit. All right, who at the police department?
I'm not too sure I can answer that.
Well, did you talk to some officers at the police department?
Yes,
When?
I talked to them after the information was given to me to confirm it.
And what officers did you talk to?
I talked with Officer Wright, looked up some reports, talked with Vince Ladd, Jerry Matt.
Well, how many names were given to you?
There were quite a few.
Like how many?
Say 10.
10 names?
Yes,
Are there any of these persons who have been arrested?
some of them.
Do you know how many of the 10 have been arrested before?
No,
Do you remember the names of the persons?
some.
Who are they?
I object to that, Your Honor, as tending to disclose the name of the informant. Also, that one controlled by is sufficient for the affidavit and search warrant.
I submit that I don't think one case is sufficient.
I have some citations.
I'd like to hear them.
People versus Hall, 1971, 3 Cal 3rd, 992.
3 Cal 3rd, 992.
Right, and Helmer versus Superior Court, 1975, 44 Cal App 3rd, 430.
Officer, going back to this one controlled by, who furnished the name for this controlled by?
Who did?
Yes.
My informant.
What did the informant tell you about that?
I object to that, Your Honor, as tending to reveal the identity of the informant.
I am not asking for the name of the informant. I am just asking, what did the informant tell him about obtaining something from them?
Do you feel, Officer Hall, that divulging that,
It could, Your Honor.
not using any specific names?
I think the affidavit says what the informant did.
Well, did he tell you that he could buy some controlled drugs?
The search was conducted. I went to that location. They bought what they said they could get.
Okay.
Do you remember what the substance was?
Phencyclidine.
You corroborated, strike the word corroboration, Then the other thing the informant did was give you some other names about some other people?
Yes,
And at the time this information was given to you, had the informant been under any charges in court?
no, yes and no.
What do you mean, yes and no?
There was a case pending.
That had not been filed?
That is correct.
Was the informant then working off a beef, so to speak?
Yes,
And in exchange for giving information, the case would be dismissed. Was this the premise?
yes,
All right. And with regards to the information that was given to you about this matter, did the informant tell you that also involved was a person by the name of Michael Anthony Lester?
yes,
Now, in your affidavit, you say Lee and Lester presented X with some hand-rolled cigarettes, which X purchased a quantity of. Who actually handed the cigarettes over?
Lee,
Was Lester there too?
he was present.
Did your informant say what role Lester took in the sale or the furnishing of any cigarettes?
No, other than the fact that he was there, he lives there.
Did any money exchange hands?
Yes, sir.
How much?
$20.
How many cigarettes were sold for $20?
Your Honor, again, I object to this as tending to disclose the identity of the informant.
Yes, I think you're getting rather close. Sustained.
Did your informant tell you who he or she handed the money to?
No,
Did you ask?
no, I did not.
Do you know whether the money had been handed directly to Lester?
No, I do not.
I have no further questions, Your Honor, on voir dire.
I have no, well, officer, when you arrived at the area of the residence, what did you do after first arriving there?
We went up to the front door. We knocked. 2 other officers were in the back. We could hear her on the inside. She said, "Just a minute." We heard a door slam. We then entered. Before entering, I identified myself as a police officer, stating that we had a search warrant and demanded entry, then went in.
How long did you wait before entering?
Not very long.
And why did you enter in that fashion?
We heard the door slam. We didn't know if we had been made or if the dope was going down the toilet or not.
And you heard a female say, "Wait a minute."
Yes,
And then you heard running feet.
No.
You would hope he would say that.
What did you hear?
I just heard, "Just a minute," and the door slammed.
And what happened after you entered the residence?
Just a minute, Your Honor. I am going to object until a better foundation is made on the entry. We may have a knock and notice issue.
You said you knocked?
Yes, we noticed.
Noticed what?
You said you had a search warrant?
Yes, prior to entry,
What point in time did you hear, wait a minute?
right after the knock, then the door slammed and I said, "Police officers, we have a search warrant," and then we went in.
You got no response to that?
No,
Did you have to kick the door down?
no, the door was unlocked.
Okay.
And then when you entered, what did you see?
I went straight into the living room to the kitchen checking for people in the house. Officer Wright went to the left of his entry.
Did you see anybody inside?
I didn't see anyone immediately. Officer Wright later told me that the suspect, Karen Lee, was in the bedroom.
Did you have contact with Karen Lee?
Yes, when she got out of the bedroom, I advised her or read the search warrant to her, provided her with the original, and conducted the search.
Do you see Karen Lee in the courtroom today?
Yes, it's the defendant.
What did you find pursuant to the search?
Prior to the search, I Mirandized her. She said, "I can save you the time and tell you where it is." She said it was in the bedroom by the dresser. Officer Wright had been in there and said it was there and informed her that she was being placed under arrest. Correction, we had not Mirandized her up to this point until after she was placed under arrest.
And then at that point, did you advise her of her Miranda rights?
Yes,
From memory or from card?
just from memory,
Could you tell us what you said at that time?
you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to an attorney before any questioning if you wish one. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you at no expense to yourself. Do you understand those? Yes. Do you wish to discuss the offense? Yes.
And did she appear to understand what you had said to her?
Yes.
Were any promises or threats made to her to induce her to speak to you?
No.
Was this before or after you had conducted the search?
This was before.
Did she make any statements at that time? Did you ask her any questions about dealing in phencyclidine?
No.
Did she make any statements right at that time?
She might have made some to Officer Wright, other than the fact that she told me where the stuff was at.
What did you find in your search?
I found a plastic jar containing 3 hand-rolled cigarettes on the bedroom floor next to the dresser. In the jewelry box, I found a pipe used for marijuana and 5 hand-rolled cigarettes.
Did you find any documents in the house during your search?
Yes, I found a PG&E and phone receipt with the address of Karen Lee of 114 Bodum.
Where in the residence did you find those items?
One of them came out of a purse and the other came from the kitchen. I also found an envelope addressed to her that was in the bedroom, bottom drawer of the dresser.
The same dresser that you referred to found the jewelry with the phencyclidine?
Yes,
Wait a minute, you said suspected phencyclidine? He hasn't testified about any suspected phencyclidine.
Excuse me, the cigarettes you testified about?
yes, I believed them to be suspected phencyclidine, hand-rolled.
Did you find any parsley in the residence?
Yes, we found a jar of parsley in the kitchen.
What did you do with the cigarettes that you found at the scene?
Well, they were all taken as evidence, taken to the Modesto Police Department where the Valtox test was conducted and then sent to the lab.
Do you have with you evidence in relation to this case?
Yes,
If the record could reflect the witness is tearing at an envelope, I would like to have this envelope marked Peoples number 2 for identification. I believe counsel has seen it.
No,
Officer, do you recognize this envelope marked Peoples number 2 for identification?
yes, this is the envelope I sent to the lab.
Could you finish tearing the seal off of that envelope and remove the contents?
Okay,
If the record could reflect the witness has removed a plastic bag with inside of it a small clear plastic jar. Do you recognize what it is that you have removed from inside Peoples number 2?
yes, this is the evidence that I picked up at the scene.
Did you place that evidence inside the plastic bag that it is in now?
Yes, I did.
Did you seal it?
Yes,
Did you then place it inside the envelope marked Peoples number 2 for identification?
yes,
And what you have removed from inside there, what is inside the plastic bag? Do you recognize that material?
yes, the cigarettes that I found at the residence.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
did you take photographs?
I don't think I did. I don't believe I did, no.
Did you seize a letter while you were there?
I seized an envelope. I don't recall if there is a letter in there or not.
Do you have that there with you?
I took a photograph.
Can I see it, please?
Mark it first before I open it.
Sure. Ask to have this marked as Defendants A for identification, Your Honor. Showing you Defendants A for identification, Officer Hall, I ask if you will open that envelope and remove the contents, please.
All right.
Out of here, you have shown me an envelope addressed to Karen Lee at 114 Bodum. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you also seized the letter that was in there?
yes.
Was there some reason why you took the letter also, sir?
Other than the fact that it was in the envelope, I just took the envelope.
All right. And you took these 2 photographs?
Yes.
Was there some reason why you took these 2 photographs?
Yes, I took those for identification purposes.
What do you mean for identification purposes?
Well, they are photos of Karen Lee and 2 other women. I do not know who they are.
May I see the search warrant, please?
Sure.
All right. In the return of the search warrant, officer, can you tell me, sir, whether you made any mention of the fact that you took 2 photographs?
It says a photo. It should have been 2.
It says a photo, pipe, and 5 joints, and a jewelry box.
Not telling. No, Melissa brought that in case she spilled and I said, well, it's messier. Let's give it to her. What was I gonna do? Oh, I should have said question. I was thinking something about that. Oh, okay, okay, thank you.
Freezing.
Uh-oh. We can turn the heater on.
Okay, tell me you are.
I am for the defense, Mr. Beverly, Beverly.
I am the court.
I'm the witness.
I am plaintiff's attorney, Mr. Jeffers, Jeffers. Okay, so we're starting off in colloquy, margin defense attorney, and then we're going right into direct by plaintiff's attorney. Okay?
Thank you. No further questions.
I have no questions.
Thank you. You may step down.
May this witness be excused, Your Honor.
Any objection?
No objection.
You are excused.
Joyce Taylor.
Please state your name, spelling the last.
Joyce Elaine Taylor, Taylor.
Miss Taylor, on May 31, 1979, were you in the area of 3rd and Linden in Long Beach, County of Los Angeles?
Yes, I was.
Were you there in the afternoon?
I believe it was afternoon. I am not sure what it was.
At that time and at that location, did you see anybody that you recognize in court today?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
That guy with the blue shirt and the one with the green shirt on the end.
Indicating the two defendants.
Were they together when you first saw them?
No,
Who did you see first?
I saw the one with the green shirt on.
How did you happen to meet him?
He was standing at the bus stop.
How did this take place?
He was standing at the bus stop and he asked me when I passed the bus stop, he asked me if I know. He took out a little piece of paper with a Greyhound tag and he asked me if I knew where the P Green Hotel, the Pink Lady Hotel or something like that. And I said, why don't you call information, 411 information?
Now, there is a big difference between Pink Lady and P Green. Do you recall which it was, if either?
I don't really. Which one it was, I don't remember, but I know it was something, Pink Lady or something like that.
This is still the man in the green shirt that we are talking about?
Yes.
What happened next?
And then after I said, I don't know, I said, why don't you call information? And he said, he didn't want to call information. Then, about 2 minutes after that, the other guy with the blue shirt on was coming out of a bank. And I came up and he said, hey guy, you know where this hotel is? And the guy said, no. He said, I gave a lady $50 and she told me to come back to the hotel, but it wasn't any address on the Greyhound slip.
Okay, now, who was it that said that he had given someone $50?
The one with the green shirt on.
Now, I know this is going to be a little bit awkward, but rather than using the word he, refer to them by the color of their shirt, okay? Now, after the man with the green shirt told the other man with the blue shirt about the $50, do you recall what happened after that?
Yes, after that he wanted to know, he took out a pad. The green shirt took out a pad of money out of his pocket.
Describe that pad of money.
It was about this thick,
Okay, hold your hands up so His Honor can see it.
about right there, and it had
Indicating about 2 inches.
Thank you, Your Honor.
$50 on top of it, a $50 bill, and it was folded over with a rubber band on it.
Now, the 2 inches that you are referring to, is that 2 inches considering there being...
It was a little thicker than that.
It was 2 inches after it was folded over, or...
After it was folded over all the time.
But if he had been opened up, it would have been only in an inch or so?
Yes,
It was the man with the green shirt that showed you that?
yeah, green shirt.
What happened next?
And then the blue shirt said, put that money back in your pocket. He told green shirt that. He said, you don't take money out like that. So he put it back in his pocket. Then he asked me, he said, can you put money in the bank? Because he had in Jamaica, he said black people couldn't put money in the bank.
This man...
The green shirt said that. You have to have a white man with you to go to the bank and put money in there.
Just a second, Your Honor. What was said or done next?
Pardon?
Did the man with the green shirt have any kind of an accent?
Yes, he had a very heavy, it wasn't a Jamaican accent, but it sounded like a Jamaican accent because it really wasn't. Because I have some Jamaican friends and their accent is not that heavy, but it was some type of foreign accent.
What happened next after that?
And then I was going to the bank and the one in the blue shirt, he asked me, no, the one in the green shirt wanted to know if you could put money in the bank, which I was going to the bank anyway. So the one in the blue shirt said, well, let's get in the car. You can show him if you can put money in the bank. So the one in the green shirt said, if you can take money out of the bank, I will give you $50 for every $100 you can take out of the bank. So I went to the bank and I got $200 out because I was going to buy a couch for $250. And so he kept, the one in the green shirt kept taking the money out of his pocket, and the one in the blue shirt kept telling him to put it back in his pocket. So when the one in the blue shirt went in the bank with me, went to Coast Federal Savings, that's my bank.
This is